Thanks for tuning in to the Medevac podcast, powered by the Robert Irvine Foundation, whose mission is to support and strengthen the physical and mental well-being of our nation's heroes and their families. I'm one of your hosts, David Reid.
And I'm your other host, Christian Meyers. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Medevac podcast. If you're new here, there's a price for the show. You have to leave a review right now. Or maybe not right now. Wait till the end of the episode because you want to hear the substance first, I guess. But anyways, leave a review after the show. Hit the button. It takes 2 seconds, and it does a lot for us. We really appreciate you guys. Our guest today is John Horoho. He is a former Army Infantry Officer, current Civil Affairs Officer in the Reserves. He's had an interesting career, coming in a little bit later than most of the guests that we talked to, but he had an interesting time leading during COVID and transition out during that time as well. So thanks, John.
Yeah,
welcome, John.
Good to be with you guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
It's been great coming out to Dallas and hanging out with the veteran community out here. It's substantial.
Yeah. It's insane how many veterans have migrated to the Dallas area.
Yeah, and it just seems, for such a large city, it seems just so close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very tight.
I mean, you have the mayor involved with Texas Valor Project. You have these community events all the time, and it seems to me like you form this excellent community.
Everybody gets intertwined as well. Everybody's ready to put their hand out, raise their hand, and say, "Hey, how can I help out?" I mean, we just had the Patriot Paws clay shoot, and you're seeing all the same familiar faces at these events, just giving back at every chance they can get. It's a very veteran, very people-forward community here, and I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, what's so beautiful about it too is that it's unique things that you guys are doing. I had no idea until I went to the clay shoot. Like, this is golf for some people.
Yeah.
Golf with shotguns.
People are the app we used had a golf app that we were using to score yesterday. And I was like, I've used this on a golf course. This is incredible.
Oh, that's funny.
And so, but it is golf with shotguns. Yeah. This is their, hey, we got a 9:00 tee time to go shoot clays. What?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get after it.
Yeah. So we'll dive into that in a little bit, but I want to kind of rewind it back, peel back the layers of who you are, John, and dive into why you joined the military, why you decided to commission. Was it family-oriented, selfless service? What was going on in your head?
Yeah, so for me, family-oriented. I'm a third-generation service member. My grandfather was one of the greatest generations, 3-time CIB, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Started off enlisted.
Whoa.
Badass. My hero, awesome guy. It's my mother's father, Lieutenant Colonel Frank J. Dallas. But started off, made buck sergeant by the time he was 17 in World War II as an infantry officer or infantry leader. Came back, went through OCS, became an officer, one of the founding original Green Berets, just absolute incredible man, and a awesome person to learn from and grow up around. All my uncles on my dad and mom's side all served in the Army, my mom and dad both, so I grew up in it. And came time to decide what I wanted to do, and I was like, I don't want to give up the discount to movie tickets. I'm going to the military. Exactly. I was like, the commissary, I can't walk away from that. This is a small price to pay.
The exchange is no tax?
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So what was it like growing up in the shadow of this man? I mean, that is a lot of service and 3 very difficult wars.
Yes.
No kidding.
2 of which, like, you go from the greatest generation, like fight good versus evil, allied versus Axis.
Clean cut, right? Nobody's questioning what they're doing or what they're representing over there.
And then you go to Korea and Vietnam, and it's completely different.
Huge.
So what's that like?
It was, I'll tell you, it was incredible. My grandfather, highly involved in my life. Once we got to, with both my parents being on active duty after 9/11, my grandparents moved in to help raise us so they could support, their careers and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so he was pivotal in the way I grew up, and same with my grandmother, is seeing how the family element of all those years of support and raising my mom and dad and my uncle and everything like that, right? Seeing that support translate in how you manage family and service. And then it doesn't stop. And they're still supporting my mom and being grandparents that are raising people, but sharing some stories. Didn't share everything, very quiet, very humble leader. But I remember every time we would go out, he had a hat that he would wear, and it had, you know, his 3 campaigns on it with his CIB. And
Justify it.
Yes.
Like, you know, there's some hats that I just don't agree with.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Cold War veteran.
Yep.
If you're wearing an OEF, OIF hat,
The
I'm
bumper
sorry.
sticker hats.
Right? Take it off.
Yes.
Take it off.
Absolutely.
Quiet professionalism. But this man has 3 CIBs. Whereas he should have like a 10-gallon hat.
Oh yeah, but he would wear like just a full
Just all his
blinking
ribbons
lights,
on
just
it,
blinking lights.
you know?
And so
Justified.
But we would go out and people would come up and say, "Hey, thank you for your service," and he would light up. You know, he had Parkinson's, macular degeneration, a lot of it caused by Agent Orange, and stuff like that. And started later on in life, or, you know, early 70s, he lost his eyesight. Driving home, started seeing a floater. Next thing you know, nothing. Couldn't see.
Wow.
Still took me out, taught me
That's
how to hunt. Like never slowed down. Carved and painted until the day he died.
Taught you how to hunt blind?
Taught me how to hunt.
I'm just kidding.
Dead serious. He took me out there.
What?
He could hear it. I mean, he grew up in the hills of Pennsylvania, and so he could hear, like, hey, there's a squirrel over there. Aim your weapon this way and shoot your shotgun.
Some Karate Kid
It was
stuff.
insane.
Yeah,
He had these Jedi mind trick things.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget. I was like 8 years old or so when he lost his eyesight, and we're in a Home Depot, and I'm running around like an 8-year-old kid would do. I'm playing with all the washer and dryers, and he says, "Stop doing that." And he turns the corner, and he can't see me. He's legally blind at this time, and I get my finger right here. He goes, "I said stop." And just 8-year-old me, I said, "For a blind guy, you see pretty well."
This guy's like Daredevil.
He
dude.
saw everything.
no kidding.
Missed
Echolocation.
nothing. It was insane. But that's like growing up with him. Is you learn this just respect, because, you know, losing your vision is insane, right? We've all sacrificed and lost things. It didn't slow him down at all. He carved, he painted until the day he passed away, and it just changed the way he did things immediately.
Yeah.
Like any other mission, it was just this new thing that he had to conquer.
Adapt.
Conquer, and resiliency. And I think it's just that generation. There was nothing that was going to beat him or take away from him.
That generation times, 3 of some of the most difficult skirmishes we've been in. To say the
Absolutely.
least, skirmishes.
Yeah,
But,
and then to come back, right?
to come back. But those skills are so honed in on the battlefield. Like,
Yeah.
I can imagine, you know, being in Vietnam in that tree line,
Yes.
you know, 100 feet from
Oh, yeah.
the enemy.
Oh yeah.
And just like, even while sleeping, you have to listen.
So there's still, I think, a bounty on his head in Korea, because the number of just, you know, people that he took out and key leaders and stuff like that leading operations, and he told me stories where they had to have people test his food and stuff like that because people were trying to poison him and find Colonel Frank Dallas. They're like, this guy, they had little statues that were stuffed on like the roads, like, have you seen this man? And it's pictures of my grandfather and stuff. And I found all these old pictures. And as a kid growing up, I'm listening to these stories. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, no
like
kidding.
they wanted to poison you and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, I talked to my mom, and they said around that time, because it takes its toll, right? We talk about mental health and everything here.
Of course.
The Korean War, and always sleeping with a pistol underneath your bed, and constantly knowing that people that are serving you food and working in the camp you're in and stuff like that, right, or want to get you. I said, you know, when my mom said he came back different. Mm-hmm. World War II, he came back and he was still happy-go-lucky. But when he came back from the Korean War, you know, my family, I guess, noticed a big change. Mm-hmm. And it took years to get past that paranoia that somebody's always out to get you and stuff like that. And I don't think we face things like that in this.
What was the difference that you picked up on that? Because that's a story that I hear quite often in Korea.
Yeah.
Is the sense of paranoia.
And you think Vietnam would be more paranoia, right? They got
World War II,
booby traps, mustard guns, you know, blitzkrieg's tactics, all these things that are constantly coming. Something about the Korean War and had a heightened level of paranoia for those guys that were over there. Mm-hmm. And it, you know,
it might have been the transition period between World War II and Vietnam too, right?
Very much so.
Where we had defined warfare in World War II, and Korea was, you know, entering that guerrilla style tactics. Vietnam was all out guerrilla.
Yep.
So that, you know, they might have had an opportunity to get used to
True
it,
story.
gain some experience in Korea. That was passed down to the Vietnam era, but even then, like, it was tenfold.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Vietnam. So.
But then, but my question is you have each generation leading up into that point is used to war.
Yes.
You know, and going from World War I to World War II, like, you see the differences in trench warfare.
Yep. Absolutely.
Comparatively to a more guerrilla style tactic. that's ingrained in the SOPs as
Yeah.
well. But you're right, there is a transition period.
Yeah, it's less defined. Like Korea was much
I
less
think it was
defined,
also
so World
not
War II.
as expected.
Yes.
Like
Absolutely.
Korea was like, okay, we're going to go do this and we're going to destroy. We just got done conquering the world.
We're the
in
world
World War
champions
II.
right now.
So
Yeah.
victories defeated you
Yeah.
kind of thing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, this is nothing like
Very
what
different.
everyone's teaching. Because your basic training is still catered towards
Yeah.
World War II training.
Absolutely. It
Right.
had the training, the module, everything. It hadn't changed
So,
yet.
yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
and then you look at the landscape of it. Freezing over there.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked to There's a YouTube video. It's called Legends and Profiles, and it's got a video of him. And when he passed, I watched that video over and over again. So it's his voice. It's how I remember him and stuff like that. And so, but I get to watch it. But he's like, there's one of the quotes that always sticks with me. He goes, "I thought I was cold in the bulge." He goes, "Then I got to Korea."
So he was in the bulge.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that was
Absolutely. He jumped into Saint Césaire. A few years back, I was on active duty at the time, so I didn't get to go. But the city of Saint Césaire recognized these key soldiers that they remembered from World War II and liberation, and there's one of them. So there's a statue apparently with his representation in Saint Césaire. I didn't get to see it. My mom went. My cousin Kate went, and she was the firstborn on that side for the grandchildren, and she's done incredible research on like everything he did during the war.
So cool.
Found letters, compiled it all for us and stuff like that. Just really got deep into it because he was a hero to our entire family. My Nana and my Poppy were both. They were beacons of light in our family that spread. My cousin Kate and Matt are over here in Texas. We're mostly on the East Coast, where my Uncle Jim and Aunt Nancy, we were stationed over there at the Pentagon as well. My mom and dad both at the Pentagon. But they spread their family influence over here. And so, Kate took it upon herself, but her, Matt, and my mom went over to Saint Césaire for the dedication.
Very
I was
cool.
back locked down here doing COVID stuff at Fort Bragg, and I was like, oh man, I wish I was there.
So I'm just curious. Before I definitely want to dive into how that service has definitely molded you into the officer that you became. Curious to what his role was in Paris or in France.
Yeah, so would have been a young probably sergeant at the time. Jumped in and was just there doing what soldiers were doing.
So during the D-Day invasion, so 80th anniversary coming up this June.
Yes, I still never got to check the box. We were supposed to go jump at it when I first got to Bragg, and then COVID shut it down.
I got a
and
jump
was
slot.
Are you going?
Yeah, I am going.
Oh man,
I am going. So.
I put my name up. So the Alpha company's sending a couple guys from the 478th, and I put my name in there and didn't get the nod. And I was like, dang.
It's okay. Okay, so let's go into your service now. I mean, obviously, you come up with this family upbringing of military service. It's instilled into you. Kind of funny that officers become officer families become officers, enlisted families become enlisted. So that obviously made an impact on your decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, I never wanted to be an officer. I wanted to enlist. I wanted to follow in my grandfather's footsteps. He was, in my opinion, the best officer I've ever met. I knew, my mother was the first ever Surgeon General of the United States Army, first ever female. There was no shot I was ever going to beat a 3-star general. So I was like, all right, not even to set my goals on that. I was like, but I could start off enlisted and then try to follow my grandfather's footsteps and go down that path. But I originally went to go enlist as a 68 whiskey right out of high school. Had a date to go and everything like that, airborne contract, and snapped my leg in half playing basketball. Just right before going, pickup game, nothing to gain.
That's when your recruiter yelled at you, I'm sure.
Yep, and pulled my contract, and I was like, well, didn't take the SATs, so I don't know, didn't have a plan to go to college, and so took a year off, moved to New York. I was selling cars up in Albany, New York for a bit, and went and visited my buddy down at University of South Carolina, and I was like, oh, this is college? Oh, I could do this.
Hey, this is different.
Yeah, this is not high school. You guys do this stuff all the time? So immediately went in, did the bridge program, went to community college, to get the grades up because didn't see the point of taking an SAT at that point.
Sure.
Found a loophole. If you take enough credits, you don't have to take the test, and you can go to a good college.
Yep.
Ended up going to college at Charleston and started playing lacrosse for him, and ran into a guy who was a ROTC cadet. knew my last name because his dad worked at Walter Reid when my mom was the commander there, and he said, "Hey, have you considered ROTC?" And I said, "No, man. They pulled my packet. I'd have to waiver. I don't think they would give me the contract right now because around this time we're scaling down in like 2014, right? So we're not giving out contracts with scholarships and stuff like that to college kids." And I said, "Well, just come try." I said, "Okay, yeah, why not?" So I go up there. Citadel's the host school, and took me about a full semester, but Captain Justin fought for me. Didn't have the best college grades. I was definitely more into being a lacrosse player and stuff like that. But I'll never forget Captain Justin saying, "Hey, I'm putting my name to you. Make it worth it." And I was like, "Well, you barely know me, sir." And he goes, "Make it worth it. Here's your contract."
Nice.
And that's just how it came to be. No intention of becoming an officer until ran into Stuart Miller, one of my best friends, teammates. He's a JAG officer now, and he's going to be a groomsman in my wedding here in September. But had I not followed that path, never would have become an officer.
It almost seems to me like that path was guided for you. It's funny that it feels like the end of the world when you snap your leg.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man, my whole plans, my whole life. Oh, my
no
goodness.
idea what I was going to do.
And then, you get this, and it's like, we got something planned for you other than that.
Yeah.
And to go in as an officer.
Yeah. And so, man, I think the less I try to control things, I have found they fall in line. The more I try to force it,
right.
It always auto-corrects to whatever the path I was supposed to be on was going to be.
You know how plans work out, right?
Yeah.
They don't.
They don't. First contact, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Love all those hours of co-dev, and then you get there and instantly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that was a fun whiteboard session.
Step one's out.
Yeah, but you could do that with everything in hindsight almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
If you really look at it, and you still have to have that forward momentum, that drive.
Yeah.
If you can maintain that drive and not focus so much on the plan.
Yep.
You're still probably going to get to the area you
Absolutely.
need to be.
and found my way there, right?
Yeah.
Wanted to be an infantry officer like my grandfather.
Yeah.
Just did it in a different path.
Yeah. It's an interesting perspective of like a story I heard of we all have that experience of driving down the 2-laned highway.
Yeah.
And the car is going 10 miles under the speed limit. And the perspective of that story was, that's a guardian angel preventing you from getting to preventing you from getting into the accident that's waiting ahead.
Yep.
So and when you think of it in that perspective, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But when you think of it in the other perspective, you're heightened,
White
you're
knuckling
angry,
the
you're
steering
screaming,
wheel.
you're mad about it. So just kind of one of those things too.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before, and it's just spot on. And then you start driving on your way home from like doing something like this, and you realize you're still white knuckling the thing. Like, why haven't I learned this lesson yet?
No matter what you do, you're like, but I still have to get to In-N-Out Burger.
I need that extra 3 miles over the speed limit. Give it back. Those are mine.
I know, or just at the very least preventing you from getting a speeding ticket.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I can't tell you the number of times where you're like, I see the
Yeah.
cop at the last second. I'm like, that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, glad
Thank
this played
you.
out.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the story. You commission in
Yes.
to the military, and does that negate your dream of 68 whiskey? I mean,
Yeah. At that point, yeah.
So it's at the needs at that point.
Yep. So go through the basic selection. I was ranked high enough in that year's OML where I got my top 3 choices, and I got selected infantry. But again, another curveball comes into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't graduate on time. I picked a major that was probably too smart for me, exercise science, health, and human performance.
Okay.
And I can't remember at this point, it was kinesiology or physiology. Anyways, you needed a C, I got a C minus. And so I did all that kind of stuff and did a delayed commissioning. And they said, hey, while you're delayed commissioning, we're sending you to Bradford, Pennsylvania, and you're going to gold bar recruit. You'll still pin, you'll still commission, everything like that. So 2018, now I'm leaving warm, sunny beaches of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm going to the mountains of Pennsylvania, and Pitt Bradford, beautiful campus. Greatest marketing that I've ever seen. They were like, hey, you can either go to the Johnsonville campus, I think it is, or something like that. where you can go to the Bradford campus. And so all I have is a website, and they've got this stream, they've got fly fishing on there. And I'm like, I'm going to this one.
This looks great.
Absolutely. I'm by the water. I need this in my life. Like that's my nature, my soul. Get there, small campus. And I'm like, where's the big lake? Yeah. Oh, that's over there. No, that's a puddle, sir.
Man.
But it ended up being the best thing that happened to me.
Okay.
Because now I'm out of my element, right? Now I'm learning how to work with cadets. I'm dealing with a new leader, and learning like for the first time what it's like to work for a new lieutenant colonel that just you have no relationship with. You didn't build 4 years of relationship with these officers who watched you grow, and you can call them and stuff like that. So now I'm having to separate out. I'm only a few years older than these cadets, and they're saying, "Hey, sir, how are you?" And I'm like, "Sir, what up, bro?"
Yeah. Dude works. Yeah.
Yeah. So did my time there, and then now I'm finally getting to do what I want to do: graduate, get my degree, go to Fort Knox and do one cycle as a cadre there, evaluating cadets for summer training and stuff, and then off to Fort Benning, and I finally get to do infantry stuff. And now having a great time. I get there, meet some of my best friends. Got to go through all of iBulk and everything, and I'm like, all right, cool, things are lining up. Everything's finally falling into place. I'm going to be an infantry officer. I'm going to go to Ranger School. I'm going to go to Airborne. I'm going to go to the 82nd. Awesome. Nope. I was like, not too good to be true. So we go all the way through iBulk. Awesome time. I got a slot to Airborne School first. I'm supposed to be going to Ranger School right afterwards. Graduate Airborne School, and they're like, "Hey, Horoho, you have orders?" And I go, "Yep, tracking, March class, Ranger School." Or they're like, "No, you have orders to Fort Bragg." I was like, "I'm not going to be an infantry officer without a tab going to Fort Bragg. They'll kick me literally right back here." And they're like, "Well, you have orders." I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "Hey, we also need you to sign this declination statement that you don't want to go to Ranger School." I was like, "Oh no, I'm not signing that."
No,
Oh yeah. Oh
What?
yeah. And I was like, "I'm not declining anything. Like this is I'm supposed to be going to do this."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, fine, don't sign it." So I was like, "Okay."
I won't.
So I was like, "I won't."
Yeah.
And so
not.
if you remember back in January, the White Devils were on IRF-1, and they got spun up and deployed to Iraq when the missile crisis was going on. So they were pulling guys who were already thumbed off to go there to go early and come to Fort Bragg and meet them in country.
Okay. So to go straight deploy.
Yeah, and so now I'm like, heck yeah! I was like, I'm gonna get to deploy immediately. This is what it's about, right? This is what we waited all these years to do and stuff like that. And so now I'm hyped. I'm like, okay, not going to Ranger School. I'll figure that out later. I'm going to get to deploy and do what we came here to do. Mm-hmm. I get there, show up early. I'm in processing with this other captain who I actually knew. He was like 3 years older than me. He was at the Citadel. I was at Charleston. Okay. So him and I come in at the same time, and we're both thinking, hey, we're picking up our plane ticket. We're going to meet him there. As I'm walking up the stairs into the battalion, all of a sudden the battalion commander's walking down in flip-flops. And he goes, "Hey, aren't you my new LT?" I said, "Aren't you supposed to be in Iraq, sir?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, we came back last night." I was like, oh.
Like, damn it.
Damn.
And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go PT, shower, and then meet me in my office. There's 3 new ones of you. We're going to figure this out." And I was like, yeah, "Roger that, sir." So they, spent their time there, and I missed it by like 3 days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now, again, here's the plot twist. Like, I'm a new lieutenant. I'm untabbed. I'm at least made it to the 82nd.
Yeah.
But I'm not deploying either. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a rough start.
Yeah.
And came in with 3 guys and got settled in and, following the path and never made it back to Ranger School.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not.
I guess COVID's probably kicking off shortly after that.
And that's
right?
it.
Yeah.
And now we dropped the curtain of COVID.
Yeah.
2018, we, spent about 3 weeks in the S3 shop, and then all 4 of the new lieutenants got bumped down. So I go, to Bravo and take over a platoon. Absolute stud platoon, incredible NCOs. These guys have been like top of the bar and everything like that. So I'm like, heck yeah, I'm about to, lead these absolute studs. COVID. Hey, you can't PT. Everybody wears a mask. You need to come up with book reports and educational plans you can do with your soldiers.
Oh, man.
And I'm like,
Busy work.
I was like, these are infantrymen, and I'm going to tell them to write a book report. I can't sell that to you.
Like, be a very good book report.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, well,
Ranger handbook.
Exactly. Oh my God, we studied that thing left and right.
Yeah.
Hey, I need you to write me a book report on Battle Drill 1 Alpha.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sir, that's 2 pages.
Yeah.
Can you make 3 out of the book report?
5 paragraphs. Write them up every day.
Extrapolate.
Yep. Yeah. And so, man, that was like the first year or so of my time was just COVID and learning how to lead. And so it finally, they mask mandate's huge. We're in it, everything like that. But then I start getting to do some things. So like, hey, you're going to do PT, but you're going to do it kind of by squads. So now we're not doing platoon level PT. You're doing squad level anyways, which is what the guys want. They get a little more investment in their fitness and stuff like that. But now we're getting back. We're jumping, right? And then so I'm like, heck yeah, okay, airborne unit, we're jumping. No, you're jumping wearing masks. Like, hey, suit up, sit in the shed, mask on. And these guys are going nuts. Like they just want to go out there. They're like pit bulls wanting to get let off the leash. And we're like, hey, nope, just sit and wear a mask in briefings, in the office, walking around outside. It was wild. And as a young leader, you're a little disheartened, right? Because you're like,
you're trying to keep up morality, and
exactly,
it's not working.
And so then you start getting, people get frustrated, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're starting to run into guys doing things that you're like, I know
getting into trouble.
I know you're better than this, man. Like,
yeah. Well, to use your same analogy, I mean, muzzled for sure.
Oh yeah,
muzzled and kenneled up.
Yep. And so we just start going to the field. That was your safe place. Hey, we're going to the field. Nobody's driving out here all the way to the drop zone to check on us and put tabs and thumbs on us and stuff like that. Yeah. And so that was the way we got around it.
Just go shooting to the range the entire
That's
time.
it.
You got your 6 feet
we're
everywhere.
We're on range 1.
Yeah.
We're going to do qualify on anything we want. Yeah. There was ammo galore because people weren't booking ranges. So it was, I will say, like, it was the heyday for training because anything you wanted to book was always open. You needed ammo, we've got surplus. What do you want to go shoot right now? So that part was fun. So we started getting into it, and eventually COVID let up, and got to do some really cool things, stick lanes, everything like that. And then we hit IRF. So, you're looking around at the landscape of the world and stuff, and there's really nothing going on. So we're on IRF 1. So you're on a 2-hour recall, 18-hour sequence that the guys just went through about 18 months before. And, everybody's taking it seriously, but at the same time, it's like there's really nothing going on right now in the world.
Can you talk about what that is a little bit?
Yeah, so IRF is the Immediate Response Force. So there's 3 tiers of it. It changes all the time. It used to be, I think, GRF, IRB. Essentially, you are the unit when something goes on in the world where the president hits the button and says, hey, we're sending you up forward. You guys are on different sequences. So IRF 1 is a 2-hour sequence to recall, show up, and then 18 hours you're on a plane going somewhere. And it rotates throughout all the big brigades and battalions and everything like that.
Rangers, it's constant.
Yeah, you guys have it way different pace than us. We're doing we're on it for 3 or so months, depending on what it is, and then you're off for.
Yeah, that used to be the worst.
Yeah,
and you're spun up all the time,
and the spouses hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge stress on the household too.
It's like being on call on crack.
Yeah, all the time. You're wired. You're ready to go. And
bags packed, ready to deploy.
Always by the door.
Hours.
Yeah, and you're just ready to go. You're like your fridge is never fully stocked because you don't know if you have time to go home to clear it out.
Yeah, that's why we have milk and honey roasted peanuts in mine.
Yeah,
my fridge the whole time.
I have Lunchables all day. I looked like I was 14 again.
Yeah, exactly.
I only have the turkey one today. Yeah. Dang,
it's probably still good now.
It probably is. Absolutely.
Bologna.
I think Bologna. And so so we're like, hey, nothing's really gonna happen, no big deal. Well, then you get the riots, right?
Oh man.
So now here's my first time where I get to lead in not a combat situation, but we're getting spun up and going somewhere, and we're like, all right, where are we going? DC.
Domestic operations.
Awesome. So this is like the July.
And first of all, let's go through the emotions of what's going on there.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Is we, right, foreign and domestic.
Yep.
Roger that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're not deploying overseas anymore. You're deploying against
people who
your own.
I used
citizens.
to live in DC.
Yeah.
I went to high school in Northern Virginia. We were one of the places we were almost tasked to go take over is where my parents used to live at Fort McNair. It's where the Lincoln what's the word? Not assassins, contributors, whatever the word is. The people who were involved with the planning of Lincoln's assassination were hung.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a place where there was intel that they wanted to, conspirators. Thank you. They wanted to target that, and so we're sitting there doing a briefing. I go, "Hey, sir, I lived here," and he goes, "Talk to me. Let's set up, like, where would you attack? Where do we need to be? What are the security measures?"
It even gets worse.
And I was
Talk
like,
to me.
I was like,
attack position.
yeah. I'm like,
No.
I was like, well, you kind of have a ghetto area over here. People would flood over here. The whole Potomac's on the backside, so you're pretty safe there. Nobody's going to swim across and get in.
Yeah.
There's gates. I said,
By canoe.
yeah, here we go. We're crossing the river, Mr. Washington.
They tried that a couple times. Yeah.
Thank you. And so you're not prepared for that, right? And like to your point, we're doing this against Americans, and we're not getting non-lethal rounds. It's like, hey, we show up, we end up landing, I think Andrews or whatever, and then we go down to Fort Belvoir. I'm in the shed where I used to wrestle when my parents were stationed at Fort Belvoir. No air conditioning, and I'm like sitting here. I was like, this was way cooler when I was 9 years old going to wrestling practice here. Not when we have 500 people crammed into one shed with cots and stuff and no air conditioning. Mind you, COVID's still rampant. Mask up
the whole time, yeah.
And so, but you're not prepared for this, right? As an officer, as a senior enlisted or something like that, you don't go through training to go do stuff on American soil. And now we're facing racial things, right? Mm-hmm. I've got my soldiers who are African American being asked to put live rounds into a magazine and be prepared, if called upon, to go qualm riots of people who look like them.
Yeah.
And so, I have leaders who are coming to me and saying, "Sir, I can't do this. I can't put a round in and go look at somebody who looks like me just without a uniform and know that
You're
something
doing
could
the
go
right thing."
Yeah. And so now we're in an ethical question, right? It's our job to follow orders and everything like that, but how do you justify this to your soldiers?
Well, you joined, in that same feeling as World War II, right?
Yeah.
That America is the good guy.
Absolutely.
Here. And I'm sure that was questioned quite a bit internally with your men.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, now as a leader, you have to make a choice. Do you put them in a position where they feel like their morals and ethics are questioned? And how do you take that into account without going against the mission, right? Because mission first, people always. Mission's always going to come first. And so we had to get creative. And I had, I will say that any success I had in my military career is because I had strong NCOs. I have always fallen face first into incredibly strong NCOs with amazing backgrounds, early surge guys who've seen it all, done it all, and kept on going.
Once again, probably one of those things that was instilled by your grandfather.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of infantry officers that come in. And like you said, super cherry, not having done anything. These guys just got back from a deployment. They know how to do it.
And I don't know anything. I'm new.
Watch the NCOs.
That's it. It's the only way you're going to be successful.
Especially in infantry. It's the infantry. It's the NCO's party.
Yeah. I think, Sergeant Lopez, we go and sit down and he goes, "Hey, sir, welcome to my platoon." And I didn't even question it. I was like, "Thank you. It's nice to be here." What can I do for you? But you got to go into it with that mindset. Like we watched guys who would come in and be like, "No, this is my platoon," and now they're memes. And it's like, "Oh God, it's brutal."
I've seen butter bars yell at E9s to salute them outside.
I watched that happen once.
Got some balls.
Got nuked at Ibulek.
Yeah, I bet.
Like had no idea. And we're talking. You looked at this guy and he was crusty. He's done some things, but he's in PTs. And the guy walks by. "Hey, no salute." Whoop. And I just went, "And walking away faster." I just looked and I go, at least an E8 or higher.
Yeah.
I'm out. See you later.
Yeah,
See,
no.
I'm going to the showers. Bye.
You're fucking 22 years old.
You don't know your head from your ass.
And you're telling this guy who's been in for 27 years to salute you? Get off your horse, dude.
I'm a first lieutenant at this. I'm going to fast forward a little bit just because it fits in, but I'm a first lieutenant at this point. We're down doing LPD, which is a leadership thing for before you do a rotation at JRTC, right? As a staff officer and stuff like that, you go in, you learn how to do battle drill, planning and stuff like that. Well, we're getting ready to clean up, and Sergeant Major Black comes to me. One of the greatest NCOs I've ever worked for. I learned more about him, one being just a consummate leader, but being able to focus on taking care of people and making sure you protect your guys while also holding them to a standard. I mean, you needed to get your health right. He would find the time to make sure you took care of yourself, but then he would show you how to make sure you did your work and didn't fall behind when you did it. But we're sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, Horoho, go clean the toilets for me." I was like, "What?" And like in my head, I'm not too like proud to like say it, but I was like, "But I'm an officer. Why am I?" And he just looked at me and goes, "Do you think you're too good to scrub toilets?" I was like, "I mean, no, Sergeant Major. Like, I scrub my own toilets at home, I guess." And he goes, "All right, then you know what to do. Go get it done." And I was
It's
like,
a power play.
"Yeah." I was like, "All
I
right."
I would have been like, "Roger that, NCO. I need you to grab a Spec 4 and tell him to clean the toilets." And the Spec 4 will go down to the privates and be like, "You guys, that's how
But
it
here's the
works."
problem. I was
that
the
the
private.
test?
No, it was no. He wasn't testing me. He just wanted me to go clean the toilets.
I would have been like,
I was the private in this scenario. Like I'm at a leadership with like O's. It's all lieutenant colonels, majors, and captains.
We're also analyzing these stories from a leadership perspective. So like nowadays, I'd be like, "Yeah." We've been working with the military for quite some time now. So.
But in the moment, I'm like, "All right, I'm cleaning toilets." And I came back. He goes, "That wasn't so bad, was it?" I mean, it was actually pretty bad. We got to talk to the boys about their diet, but I guess no, it wasn't that bad. He goes, "Never be too big to do the little jobs, sir." And I was like, "Oh shit!" He just Miyabi'd me. Or Miyagi'd me like this. There was a lesson here.
You're like, "Don't worry, I didn't. I got the privates."
I really supervised and refined Sergeant Major. That is the cleanest toilet of privates I have ever cleaned.
I am management.
I am management.
So let's rewind back to the riots.
So
you have guys that are questioning what they're doing there, live rounds to people that they grew up with.
Guys I'm from the DC area at this point.
So what's that internal humming and buzzing and gossiping going on about? Because I imagine there was quite some conversations.
There was tons. And this is where I leaned on Lopez, and I was like, "Hey man, I in my heart don't feel like this is the right thing to do. How do we handle it?" He goes, "Sir, they're going to put a magazine in. It's not going to have any rounds, and we're going to pull them to the back. There'll be the people up top where we're doing, we had whole echelons of escalation that we had set up that we trained. We learned riot tactics and stuff like that. We practiced with gear in the field house waiting for the call up to go. And we told the guys, hey, if you have a just moral to the depths of your soul problem with this, come talk to us and we'll figure out how to take care of you." And that was the solution we came up with. We said, hey, we're going to pull you guys to the back. You're going to be there. You're going to be present. If anything gets all the way back to you, we're pretty screwed anyways, and you might have to throw a punch. But I'm never going to put you in a position where you have to make that decision if you're not ready to do it. And that was our workaround. I don't know if that was the right answer or not. It was probably something that if it was well known and publicized would have gotten me in trouble.
Were you stripping magazines from these guys, or
we checked their magazine, made sure, hey, listen, like you got nothing. You put it in, make it look like it, right? We'll do a faux. We'll make it look like
there's.
there's.
Just gave them beanbag shotguns.
So
man.
we did get the beanbag shotguns,
Nice.
and every single person wanted to test it on their buddy.
And did they?
No, nobody did it. We got away with it. Nobody did it.
nobody told you?
That's true.
That's the worst thing about being with infantrymen, dude. Is just like I remember being in the armory, and that everything is metal there. Like, it's sharp metal.
Yes.
Like and it's cramped, and there's barely any room. I had a friend of mine come up, and he's like, "Does this taser work?" It's the taser gun without the cartridge in it, and he puts it on my stomach, and it sure as shit did work.
It worked.
As I face planted into all the metal objects.
just gashed, probably.
I was like, oh, you fucking dick.
But that's like the best part of the infantry world,
Yeah,
right? Is
it
like
is.
it's you never grow up. You're just like you're these adult boys that
you
still
can't.
play army and have a good time.
Yeah, you can't. You got to be like semi-savages.
We had. Did you guys ever have Fight Fridays?
Oh, we had platoon wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where two platoons would meet on the field of battle.
Yes.
And just clash.
And how awesome is that?
And
like
when
that's,
you tapped out, you had to
you're
get
out. Yep.
Right, but
And then
it's
you're
80
shamed.
dudes fighting.
We would put our best guy forward, and it would always be like
Yeah.
our newest private. And you're like the two privates
He has
go
to
in.
charge first.
Yeah, exactly.
I had one where we're in the T sec. It's a big like long T section on each side, so a long H. Think of it that way. That was
Yeah.
our barracks. And everybody lived with each other, right? The whole squad. Like that was the old barracks.
Yeah.
Right? And we used to start on the opposite side of the T's and clash up. And I remember at one point, I was always a strong guy. I was always
Stud.
combatives all the time. And I remember these three guys grabbed me by the neck, dragged me into the room, hogtied me, and I was like, man, I thought I was a strong man. It just takes three for them to get to me. I was lucky to escape
And I
with my
love like your
pants.
ego was three guys. It only took three guys to get me. The average American is like, oh my God, one big man tried to grab me.
three rangers that are trained for it. But I was just helpless.
I thought it would take five.
at least seven.
In my mind, a whole
seven,
platoon
Yeah.
came looking for me on my birthday.
So we obviously, you're supercharged.
Yeah.
And you want it. You want the fight, but you want the fight to be the right reason.
Yes.
And they obviously didn't have this.
Didn't.
This motivation.
No, and this is your
go-
first spin up,
Yeah.
right? And then the other thing is, if you look at the news, right, we didn't get credit for being there. They gave the credit to the 101st. And
Good.
as-
Let him take the credit for that.
Here's where it gets even better. So we're 2504th. We're the White Devils. At some point, yep, there you go.
I see where this is going.
There you go. We get a legal brief. Hey, if you wear any of your PT stuff that just says White Devils on the front, somebody at some higher level eventually realized that the news article was going to read "White Devils go in to qualm black riots."
Yep.
Not a great look.
Yeah.
Publicity. But we're already on planes there. There's already leaders who hopped on helicopters and took birds, and they're already there setting up, the talk in the command centers. And nobody put this together until too late.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're getting legal briefs about you will not wear any of your PT gear. If any pictures are taken anywhere, they took our phones away, right? So we're dark. So that's another part. Like I don't know for you guys, but phones went in a dead box and they stayed at Bragg. So we have no communication with the outside world while we're doing all this stuff. But so that comes up, and so they're like, yep, 101st is out on the scene in D.C. to handle the riots. And we see the newspaper article later, and we're like, that makes sense. I'd probably would have given them credit too.
Yeah. So I'm curious why, and I don't know how far you go into the legal side of things, being
Yeah.
an infantry officer, but like posse comitatus, right?
Yeah.
That's the act that was,
Yep.
It limits the amount of federal government's involvement in domestic operations, right?
Yeah.
So how are they utilizing you guys in place of the National Guard? Here? Because that's the National Guard's purpose, is to maintain order
Yeah.
in states or provinces, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the federal, like Title 10
Yeah.
active duty members are not supposed to act.
So this is where we were there as a almost became a secondary force. We never got used.
Okay.
We spent about a week sitting in a hot box, and the National Guard ended up doing everything.
Okay.
So that's where that came into play. The quick reaction was it was getting out of hand. There were identified threats on national monuments, and they felt like they were going to need us. We being at Fort Bragg were a very quick trip to get in there. 45-minute flight up and out. In, but they never used us. So I think that's where it came into play. Where we were there, we were ready. We trained up on tactics, throughout the day, but. Happily.
Yeah.
I've never been so happy not to get a call.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't know what that was going to look like.
Okay, and that was my next question.
Yeah.
Is if you guys did get the call, what does that look like? What are you then on a Title 32 status, like under the National Guard?
All these questions,
Yeah,
right?
there's-
It was, and we're
so
getting like
curious.
very basic legal briefs about what we can do, how we can engage.
It's because they have no idea what's going on, and they're just
Nobody
trying
did.
to.
It's developing right in
Ad
front
lib
of
it,
us, and like we're thinking about what the last time that we we put federal forces, I think, going back into when we're, integrating schools, right, in the Midwest, I think is the last time that we probably had force on foot.
Even that was the National Guard still, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it might have been World War II with the Japanese internment camps.
Yeah, so
that would be rounding up American and Japanese civilians to put them in the camps. It was federally. So
we're going back, and again, not a great scenario for America.
No,
and we're right back here again. Luckily, nothing came of it.
Yeah.
So we go back home, but COVID rears its head again, and now I'm patient zero. I get COVID, and I'm the first person in the unit to get COVID. And so we couldn't tell the symptoms, right? Because it's like 100 degrees inside this thing. Where there's limited. We packed, a battalion and then some into this shed, and so we don't know what's exhaustion, what's COVID symptoms, or anything like that. So cut to we get home, 3 or 4 days go by, and I go out to a breakfast place that I know that I've been before, and I have the $1 million bacon at Overwatch, and I'm like, oh, I can't taste this. Crap. And so I do immediately call my commander. I was like, hey, sir, I think I have COVID. And we're going into EIB, right? So he goes, you don't have COVID. I go, sir, I can't taste bacon. He goes, that's not COVID. That's just a weird thing that you can't do with bacon right now. And so I was like,
medical professional opinion.
And he lays it out. And like the fact of the matter is, right, not young lieutenant, infantry officer, no tab, haven't had my shot at EIB yet, but like there's certain mile markers you need to hit as an infantry officer to be successful.
Just keep getting knocked down.
I keep hitting every wall, right?
Yeah.
And these 2-foot walls are becoming 4 and 6. And so now I'm in a position where I was like, I'm going to go get tested. Boom. I have COVID. So now we're doing frontline traces at this point where we're like, hey, contact trace. My platoon sergeant goes down. My squad leader goes down. Like 5 people go down. And I get a call from the battalion commander, which is never good as a young lieutenant. Didn't even know he had my cell phone number. And he goes, hey, Horoho. I go, sir? And he goes, did you know you had COVID when you deployed to D.C.? What? And he goes, were you acting as a chemical weapon? Like he asked me, like, were you a biological weapon when you went to DC with COVID because you wanted this deployment? Did you knowingly infect people? And I'm like dying right now. Like I feel like I got shotgun pellets in my lungs. COVID sucked. I'll be honest. I hit all the branches on the way the COVID tree down. And I'm like, sir, no, I had no idea. And he goes, are you sure? And he goes, well, I'm going to need you to write a statement and stuff like that. And so like, I'm thinking an investigation's coming up.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, I thought I was doing the right thing. Get a call back, and nothing comes out of it. But it's right now we're in the early stages where it's a huge deal. So whenever somebody gets it, it's going all the way up to the CG, and you're reporting it. So everybody, COVID's that no buzzword, and now I'm that guy. And I'm like, crap. So we go through, everything's fine, nothing comes out of it. But I get back, and now everybody's, hey, what's up, Patient Zero? I'm like, that's a terrible nickname.
They call me Zero.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. What does it mean?
Means I got COVID first and gave it to people.
Man.
So Miss EIB.
Yeah, original super spreader, huh?
Oh yeah, I was the guy.
Why is that a reaction from people too? Because that is a thing. When people are knowingly infecting. It's almost like they're in denial about it.
Yeah.
Like, so you have someone that's just like has the chills, but is sweating profusely and can't taste and all stuffed up. And they're like, oh, I don't have COVID.
Yeah. I'm fine.
I'm fine. I promise. I'm not.
Kill me. Yeah. And it was, man. Everybody would turn on you.
Yeah. It's like the guy who sleeps in class too. We were just talking about that. Is like, no, I wasn't sleeping. Dude, you were snoring.
Yeah. There's a pile of drool.
Yeah.
No, that's water. You don't have a bottle.
Yes.
Where did it come from?
Yeah, it's just like that denial because it did. Like, I mean, even to this day, if you go onto a plane and you sneeze or you cough, you're just like,
people look at you still.
Yeah,
they're like, oh,
everyone's got the PTSD.
Can I change seats? This man has the sniffles.
Or if they have a mask on now I think there's something wrong with them.
So I immediately think there's something wrong.
Yeah, you must be sick.
Yeah.
They must have COVID.
Yeah.
Like if they have the mask on now, you have
Used to
COVID.
be what, bird flu, right?
Yeah.
People were wearing
Yeah.
masks
Oh,
for
yeah.
bird flu, and now it's COVID.
Well, now they need to start doing that again. Apparently.
Oh yeah, man! I heard it's coming back around or
Texas has
something.
bird flu cases.
We're back, baby.
It's always something.
Next pandemic.
It's also always something. Speaking of a pretty interesting conspiracy theory we read about the other day is 1994, the Great Mysterious Blobs of Washington State.
What is this?
Yeah. So apparently, in Washington State, some blobs rained down over the series of 6 days in 6 separate storms.
Yeah.
So it was like little chunks of jellyfish, is what it looked like.
No
But
way.
it contained some human white blood cells
No way.
inside of it.
And intestinary tract cells as well that's located in humans. Now, the thing is like it's mammalian.
Yeah.
There was no nucleus, right?
yeah. There's no nucleus inside the
In
cells.
the white blood
this is
cells.
So they're
wild.
like unprogrammed.
But these things were making people sick when they had contact with this.
This is 94?
Yeah.
How does
1994.
nobody talk
and
about
no
this?
one knows about this.
Our estimation is that it was probably the Air Force or the Navy testing biological weapons on this small town.
A delivery system, but
Yeah.
it's like Operation Sea Spray.
Yep.
Right?
Sea spray, yeah.
Sea
Yeah.
spray, where they infected all of LA with non-infecting things just to see how a biological
Yeah.
weapon hit. But this testing was done. When was that done?
That was in the 80s.
1980s. Yeah, late 80s.
Yeah, in the
That's wild.
In the
early
late
80s, I think.
80s, and they're just like, well, we got to be able to track, and then the report states, yes, it would be highly effective.
It will also piss off all
So
Los
this is
Angeles
not-
people.
It's not uncommon, but anyway, I kind of.
It's all along the same track of what we're talking
Yeah.
about right here with you guys deploying to DC. Like the military used to do biological and like all sorts of
Absolutely.
different testing.
Yeah, dose
On
a
our-
movie theater with LSD.
Going back in the day.
CIA, yeah, same
everybody
thing.
knows the Pineapple Express scene. The best
Yeah.
part is like, that's real.
Yeah, exactly.
This
right?
happened.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
What was it? What was the movie with of men and goats or something like that? With
Men Who Stare at Goats.
Yes,
Yeah.
Men Who Stare at Goats.
That's a true thing.
It is a true thing,
Yeah.
and I love telling people that. And they're like, no,
CIA and the Army working together,
Yeah.
bringing
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
psy-
But-
psychics.
just-
yeah.
But
Yeah,
in this
mental
blob,
warfare.
in this blob story, they have 3 men in black that show up, and then the samples go missing.
no way.
Yeah, from like the Department of Health. Yeah.
Yeah, but they
Did one
come
of them
in
look like
very,
Will Smith?
very,
Yeah, right.
very weird, odd Hollywood type mentality. These guys come in to this woman who's researching it.
Yeah.
And they're like, ain't this the town with the jellyfish rain? Like it's just
I can
totally.
just picture this old, decrepit woman.
The only thing that could have made this more Hollywood is if the bomb goes off in the store.
Well, you know,
kidding,
now that
right.
we're talking about it, it's going to be a movie starring Liam Neeson and somebody
should.
else, like in the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they said they ran the license plate of the Men in Black who showed up, and it went back to Fort Hood Military Intelligence Division.
No
Yeah,
way.
Yes. Yeah.
I got to look into this. So
And
this is like in
nine-
94.
1994, and I've never, and I,
This is what
I
I'm doing
love,
for the afternoon now.
Blob rain.
I
Yeah.
love conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah,
I love weird stuff
absolutely.
like that. We all do, right?
Yeah.
And I've never heard that story.
Yeah.
It was an interesting one.
But yet hundreds and hundreds of people can attest
To this, which
Yeah.
is what I love, right? There's firsthand
Yeah.
witnesses.
Yes.
The
And the lady who researches is her mom dies from contact to this stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why she dedicates her whole life
To finding the truth.
Yeah.
to finding the truth.
Yeah, one of the microbiologists who was studying it at the Department of Health said that it was like an envelope where you could absolutely insert some sort of biological, chemical.
This is what I'm doing for the rest of the afternoon. Like I'm
So-
going deep down the rabbit hole
Yeah,
on this later.
Our estimation is they probably like found some way to freeze these blobs in the clouds.
Yeah.
So like somewhat cloud seeding.
Yep.
Causing these things to freeze in the clouds, and as it passes over landmass and starts to rain, clouds melt. Obviously.
You know how people say, like, would you ever want to be president? The only reason I would say yes is because I want the access to the president's
I want
book
the
to
book.
get all this
I
stuff.
want the black
I
book.
want the knowledge. We know
bet
it
he doesn't-
exists.
I bet he doesn't have it.
No.
It's got to be. Well, we know Nicolas Cage knows where it is.
Yeah, we'll ask him.
Yeah, we'll just
Yes.
ask him, right?
He's found it already.
Multiple times, probably.
Why do you think he's getting all these movie deals?
Exactly. He was filming National Treasure,
Yeah.
and he found the real book in the process, and he's like, and I let the world know.
Yeah.
And now they give me anything.
Man.
Yeah, they give me all the B movies. I
All the
want.
great B movies. Nicolas
Yes.
Cage, man, the weirdest, maybe greatest actor of our entire life. Just an enigma. You can't. Nicolas Cage doesn't get Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
Finger guns, baby.
Oh, that's great. So yeah, and I kind of digress on that because it does have like tones to that, and it certainly is probably going around.
Yeah.
With everybody is like, what's going on here? There is something going on that
Yeah.
is deeper than our understanding.
Oh, yeah.
And it's for command too. Obviously, there's mass confusion within
Absolutely.
command.
Well, and now we're deciding what we report on, right? Do we report on every symptom and do we isolate everybody? And that's essentially where we went. And so this is where now, as a young leader, you're now facing the third unknown thing that you don't train for. How do you lead in a pandemic? And so we have soldiers that are getting put into lockdown because they may have symptoms. So they feel fine, they look fine, but they're in isolation. And if you break it, you're getting Article 15s left and right. And we're throwing these at these guys. And we haven't even gotten to the point where we're forcing vaccination, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is its own thing. That
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, you guys know this. We get shot up. How many times have you taken Japanese whatever it is? Like all these different inoculations. I've gone through, I've never made it through a full anthrax cycle because you always miss it by 1 week and start over again.
I think I took like 16 of those.
Oh, yeah. I would love somebody. There's got to be a soldier that has a world record for the number of
Now
anthrax.
when I see anthrax, I just have to put my nose in it.
Because I got to know if it works.
I'm so immune.
They're like, oh, sir, there's a white powder. That's fine. I'm literally Superman
gotta
against
check it out.
anthrax. Yeah. Here, hold on.
Yeah.
Nah,
Really awake?
yeah. This anthrax is great.
PT score is wonderful. Yeah.
So, the vaccine's not a scary word until it becomes COVID. And so now, the vaccine's available. We're getting ready to go back on IRF-1 again. This time there is stuff going on in the world. We've got some rife going on in Europe and stuff like that. The early days of Russia, Poland, and everything that we're facing there in the Ukraine. We're looking at things starting to devolve in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, and impossible whispers of a pullout. And so, in order to be ready to deploy, you have to have a COVID vaccine. If not, and you deny it, there's, quote unquote, ways you can get a religious exemption or something like that. And I had soldiers who were very religious, very well studied, said, hey, sir, do you understand the mark of so-and-so, it's on the right arm, so I can't get my shot because they do it on the right arm, and I want a religious exemption. And I was like, well, what if we do it on the left arm? And he goes, I have to look at the Bible. I don't know what it says about that. And I was like, get back to me. Just let me know. I was like, points for being creative.
Sir,
though.
I read it wrong, and it's both arms.
It's anywhere that has to do with me and the
All right,
shot.
we'll do it right in your quad then. My whole body.
Yeah, how about an earlobe? What does it say about the earlobe? Like,
Drop your pants.
But it became this divide, right? And so some guys, me, I'm like at the anthrax scenario, right? I'm like, you guys have injected me with things I'm never going to Japan. I'm not going to have typhoid fever, whatever. So screw it. So I just go, I get it done, knock it out, because all the leaders got pulled in and they're like, hey, in order to be a good leader, you need to get this vaccine and you need to set the example. If you don't get it, why would your soldiers get it? And at this point, the Kool-Aid's still strong, right?
And to lay like an air of fairness out to the military, it is the military.
Yeah.
You've signed on a line that says, you can tell me what to do.
Yes.
You can tell me what to put in my body.
Yep.
Like in an air of fairness, like I think that always has
They've been
be
doing
said,
it for years, right?
Because regardless of how you feel, like you still belong to them.
You couldn't say, no, I don't want the penicillin shot.
No. You can't. There's not a single vaccine you get to deny.
That's a conversation, too, where individualism is really resonating
It's
deeply
rampant.
within the military, and it's a problem.
This is where it started to grow.
Because that's the whole point, is to strip away that individualism.
Yes, it's why you go to basic. It's why you immediately get in the shower,
hazed and
right? You
don't have a name. Your name is U.S. Army
Yep.
now. It says it on the
Alpha
And that's-
086. Step
and
forward.
that's what people don't understand. Why am I cleaning the toilets with a toothbrush?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the cleanliness of the bathroom.
Nope, we are
It's to
stripping you
break
down.
you down.
And that's what you're here for.
So take the shot
Yeah, that's it. And so,
or dishonorably discharge.
yep, those are your choices. And that was
Yeah.
my mindset. I was like, I don't really have a say. I was like, and at the same time, you're in the infantry, right?
Yeah.
You volunteered to go run towards bullets and get hurt. Why we jump out of airplanes? Why are you worried about what a shot's going to do to you?
Yeah.
Yes. So
hindsight says otherwise.
Well, yeah. But in the moment, I'm like, all right, it's just another
absolutely.
vaccine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's it too. Is that we're not disposable, and I think that's what got in with everybody's heads is like this feels wrong. It feels like it's done the wrong way.
Absolutely,
I'm not a piece of meat. Like we should value our lives.
Well, and that's where we start to get a divide.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm saying no because you're telling me to get a vaccine. I'm saying no because it's not tested, and you're basically using us as livestock to test. And again, went and got it, did my series. I knew that there was a deployment on the way, and I was like, this is what I signed up for. Like, this is not the reason. And we were told under no certain circumstances, you don't have the vaccine, you are not deploying.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm deploying, so shoot me up. Thank you, Pfizer. I'll have a great day. Johnson & Johnson, see you next week.
Yeah.
But these guys, now we're doing formations. And, hey, if you have not been vaccinated, step forward and fall out. Form over here. Everybody turn and look. These brothers don't care enough to deploy with you and be there to save your life when you need it. They won't get a vaccine. And we're getting divisive now. But
it's not the right way to go.
Not the right way, right? But we're in a time where we don't know any better. We're trying to figure out how to teach people who know better than being an individual, like you said, to do their job and just get the vaccine. And at this point, we don't have all the knowledge. So, man, it got bad. It got to the point where people, lots of fighting, lots of arguing. The whole process for getting exempt was a bit wonky. If we're calling things what we want to call them, as we know now, and there's been congressional investigations and everything like that. But in the real time, you're looking at it and you're like, that doesn't seem like an actual timeline that's possible to do 3 days of paperwork in 24 hours.
Yeah.
When you can't get the signatures of the people because that clinic's closed. So, now cut to we have a divide and people are starting to get chaptered. People are getting labeled, and some of these guys are stud soldiers. 300 plus PT scores,
That was a shame.
merits, great deployments, Ranger tabs, stacked, jump masters.
I just disagree with the way that it was done too. It's like, listen, we get it. It's a new vaccine. Dishonorable discharge, in my opinion, is not the way to go.
No.
Go general. General discharge. You don't get honorable
because you did. You disobeyed an order, right?
You disobeyed the order. Get a general. You could get a general on on how many things have gone wrong?
Oh my God! So anything,
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then in 6 months you could reapply or whatever.
Do whatever you want to do.
Honorable discharge, whatever. I think it was done wrong. And if you wanted a choice, then the choice is not here in the military. Get the F out.
Absolutely.
You broke the rules. I completely agree with that.
Well, and that's it, right? And so you do the fall in line and stuff, and that's where you got to be honest with yourself. Are you drawing a line in the sand because you think you're going to make a huge difference, or man, is this the hill you want to die on? And people became very stuck. This is the hill I'm going to die on. And unfortunately, right, to give fuel to the fire, a lot of them found out they were right. And that's as we dig deeper, it's like, hey man, you did break the order, but it turns out it probably wasn't a lawful order as we dig deeper. But you didn't know that in the moment. So you have to have a certain wherewithal to look in the mirror and say, in the moment, I didn't have. It is
when no one knows what the fuck they're talking about,
and nobody,
not a single person,
doctors, and nobody understands.
They're adapting. Just as much as you and I.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, man, it was just a very another interesting problem
it's
set.
Heartbreaking too, seeing these in other countries, Australia, for instance, just strapping children down.
Holding them down.
Oh, it's wild. Have you seen some of those videos?
Like swatting people's houses for vaccines.
Yeah, it's wild. I had a friend from college who was teaching English in China when COVID locked down. And so she's sending me videos, and it's like the little robot dog delivering her medicine and her food and stuff.
Yeah. And people say to me, they're like, oh, it's make believe, right? It's propaganda. Not when I have friends that are
sending
there
this to me.
sending me, texting me this stuff that's happening.
And I would show my soldiers, I'd be like, it could be worse.
This video made
look
up?
Look at this creepy robot dog that's barking
this
at her
my
door.
friend's kid. Is this made up?
Yeah. It's like, what do you? She teaches English. She's not. Spielberg.
And we're damn near that too. I mean, you have hardworking, patriotic Americans that are ready to sit by their door with the shotgun.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
The whole country, right? Like we're talking the military.
Case in point, the riots.
Yes.
Case in point.
Yeah, the whole country's divided.
And then you also have, and listen, like you go against the Capitol, you're going to get burnt.
Oh yeah,
you're going to get burnt.
Everybody, yeah. My dad tells me, hey, just go touch the stove, learn your lesson.
At the end of the day, you can't call it conspirators. No. Because these, like, you're wronging these citizens, and you're saying just go with it, stick yourself with.
Don't ask any questions.
That alters your DNA.
Oh my God, the heart issues that they're finding out of this.
20-year-old kids who are the best athletes in the world dropping dead on the field.
Yep,
professional soccer players having heart attacks.
Yeah,
like this isn't that normal.
Oh, that's normal.
Really?
That has nothing to do with
best
vaccine.
Cardio in the world.
Yeah, these guys run on average like 10 miles a game.
Something that didn't exist when I was a kid, and not long ago, right?
Yeah.
Is heart attacks and diabetes for children.
Absolutely. And even like the increase in murmurs and stuff.
Yeah, type 1 is different, but
that's science. But
yeah, type 2 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's
wild. And then everybody's just like, no, that had nothing to do with the vaccine.
This is normal.
Not that little change.
Normal.
That little guy. Don't worry about that little guy. Yeah. It's so but now we're getting divided. And so, cut to HKIA becomes a real thing. Yeah. So we're on the IRF-1. We're doing, weekly updates to the brigade commander, battalion commander on, I'm a staff officer at this time. So, we come back from Fort Polk knowing that we're getting ready to assume IRF-1. We pass our evaluations, everything like that from, JRTC world. And, we assume IRF-1. And now I'm, acting as the 3 because our major gets pulled up to brigade. The AS3 is the captain. He takes command of Delta Company. And so for the short period of time, I'm acting as the 3, as a first lieutenant. We're planning on these, and I've got, again, the greatest NCO I could ask for, Sergeant Major Blackshear. And, him and I are working to run the 3 shop with other lieutenants and officers and stuff like that. And everybody just banded together to make up for the deficit. But we're briefing these numbers, and one of the categories is non-vaccinated soldiers. And we're talking about a deployment where we don't know what's going on. Everybody who's deployed, right? It's meant to be inherent danger when you do it. But these people who don't have a vaccine are considered to be a threat to the population over there and may, infect and stuff like that. And we're now not bringing them.
It's so wrong.
Yeah.
It's so wrong.
Yeah. It's like
the vaccinated were safe.
Yeah.
So I've never seen someone that is vaccinated and be so scared about unvaccinated people.
Yeah.
That means you have no faith in the vaccination.
None at all.
And it obviously stemmed from somewhere in the top.
Well, and we have science, right? You have numbers where if there's a certain percentage of vaccinated people, it offsets the unvaccinated.
And nationally televising politicians taking shots.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that was great.
What?
Look at me in the CVS getting my vaccine.
Bacteriostatic water that they're injecting?
Yeah.
Here's your water, sir.
Why do you have sparkles in your vaccine?
Yeah, right. It's carbonated, baby. Yeah. It's for us fancy people.
It's my liquid anthrax.
It's just true.
I don't do it in still.
Yeah.
Still.
Is this tap?
Sparkling bacteriostatic water.
It's such a problem.
It is.
So I mean, man, what a career to have just been through that as well. I mean, and that pretty much was towards the end as well.
This is it, man. At this point, I'm 3 years into being an officer. Yeah. I'm coming up and thinking about pinning captain, making decisions on what I'm going to do with my career. Again, going back, family of 3rd generation service member. No plan to do anything else other than be in the United States military until the day I retire.
After that experience.
But now it's when everything, to what we started out with, when doors are closing left and right, and while this is going on, I missed my chance to go to selection. I wanted to follow my grandfather's footsteps and stuff like that. So a couple injuries and things that, that just happened, bad jumps and stuff. That window starts to close. Well, one thing goes right, and I hate to say goes right, but now HKIA, White Devils get called up. We're going into Afghanistan. And man, I have a notebook that I was writing down thoughts and stuff like that as we're going over because it's unknown, right? We don't know, we don't have maps, we don't know what the situation is. It devolved so quickly. So we're going in kind of blind, figuring out what we have for manpower and everything like that. Green Ramp is closed under construction. So we're moving from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and deploying out of Charleston, South Carolina. Another little, logistical thing. We practiced it, rehearsed it, did drills and stuff like that. But now we're going in, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what we got to do. Like, I actually get to deploy. And we get there, and it's the wild, wild west. I mean, it was insane. And we're flying over. Didn't really know exactly where we were going.
What year is this?
This is evacuation of HKIA. So August of 22? Yeah, August 12th actually. So I got notified on my birthday. We're sitting at a change of command for Charlie Company, and I just made the comment where this is my first birthday where I go home and do dinner and stuff like that. I made a dinner reservation, not even thinking, and then boom. We get the call, the color car comes across of what you're going to do, and it's like, oh, crap, this is real. Okay, let's go. And so we go to bags, everything like that. Luckily, we had a 3, so I'm no longer sitting in that position, but I'm the AS3, so I've got the plan pretty well known and stuff like that. And the 3 was actually my cadre in college. He was my ROTC cadre, and just small world. Now I'm working underneath him again. But we're going over, and the pilot comes down. I'm on the second bird going over to Afghanistan with the brigade commander, battalion commander, and the main shop heads. So we're sitting there doing up all the battle reports, briefing the commanders on what we have coming over, what we know for situation, everything like that. Well, the pilot comes down, and it's my lacrosse coach, who was an Air Force captain's old roommate. So we knew each other from Charleston, and we lock eyes, and he kind of smiles and leans over. He goes, "Hey, sir," and my battalion commander goes, "You mind if I borrow your lieutenant real quick?" And he brings me back. He goes, "You want to know where we're going?" I was like, "Yeah, dude." So I got to know where we were going because my buddy, shows the flight path and everything like that. We snap a picture. He sends it. I don't have my phone. They took our phones again.
Yeah.
So once again, phoneless, going into the unknown. Can't tell your family anything. All the things that families, spouses love about this portion of the military. Yeah. And he goes, "All right, I'll text Jeff and send this over to him. Get back down there." So I go back down. "Hey, sir, here's what I know." And we get there, we land, ramp down, and it's just chaos. I mean, there's people flooding the airfield and the tarmac. The first bird is blocked because there's people that were on the path, so it couldn't get over to where we needed to in Camp Alvarado. Department of State is just getting out of there. They're blowing out in like 4 hours. And so, as an officer, right, property management, huge, did not exist there. They're like, "Hey, Department of State comes up and goes, 'Hey, are you one of the staff guys?' And I go, 'Yeah, I'm one of the OPSOs.' And he goes, 'Cool, come with me. Here's 6 Bearcats.' I was like, 'Huh?'
Thank you.
I was like, 'Where do I sign for him?' 'No, you're good.' And
Just leave them
there. And she goes, 'Here's how you self-destruct them if you get overrun. It'll foam,' and we got to do it on the way out, so it was pretty cool. But the foam system blows in and everything shocks, sparks, and she goes, 'Okay, cool. See you,' and just hops on this wheelie scooter and just takes off into the dark. And I'm like, and I'm just sitting there a little sleep deprived, but I'm like, I don't know how I explain this to people.
It's so bizarre.
This really nice lady gave me military vehicles and then disappeared on a Razor scooter into Afghanistan.
Sweet.
I'm definitely getting piss tested when I get home.
Yeah.
So I go back in, and we're sitting down, and we're doing, hey, combat power, what do we have? And we're going all the way through, and I'm briefing my part, and I said, and we have 6 Bearcats. What are your questions? And he goes, when do we get 6 Bearcats?
It's about 10 minutes
I was like,
ago.
well, sir, a lady gave them to me 10 minutes ago, and we own these. These are ours now. And so our Delta company, we have some guys, coming in and stuff like that. Their vehicles didn't make it yet. So now we can get heavy. We can start to control. And it's around that time we're watching the monitors. We took over Department of State, so we've got a good talk and everything going on. We're watching the monitors. And all of a sudden you just see swarms. And it was like the zombie apocalypse. Thousands of people running onto the airfield. And so we're getting ready to push out, and we're working with new comm systems. But because of how thick the cement and stuff was, it's supposed to be on a relay and daisy chain off each other. It wasn't working. So we find, just tan radios, very basic walkie-talkies. And we realize, hey, these work. And the Gurkhas are still there manning the gates and stuff like that. And so we take the radios and we take the channel from the Gurkhas. And, no maps or anything like that. People were just throwing assets at us and things like that. And we're making the best with what we can do. And, you know, we go in, one of the guys goes, "Hey, sir, I got a vehicle, and I've got to get this this radio, over to Alpha Company, who's getting ready to push out to try to control all the people just flooding the tarmac. Because we still got birds coming in to bring in the rest of the wave of the brigade and everything like that and secure this airfield." Yeah. And so I'm driving out there. You got tracers shooting over the top and just like wild. I mean, adrenaline is high. It's you know, you get kind of stargazed looking because they had raided some of the armories on the other side when the Afghan army cleared out. And so they're just firing tracers across. Nobody's really shooting at you, but you know, they're whizzing, and you're like, have a healthy respect for the fact that nobody knows where these bullets are going. They're just firing them to fire them. Yeah. Which is like almost scarier than anything else. It's like, man, it's gonna be a really terrible story if I have to tell somebody I got shot by a falling bullet that somebody was like doing like Roman candles. Yeah. Like, how'd you get shot? I was in a street sweeper, because that's what I'm driving in right now. It was called the speed.
Shot on the top of the head.
And it just came right down through the roof. But man, we get out there, we deliver the comms. Alpha Company, you know, crushes it, and they, you know, kind of calm everything down. It starts to get quiet, and we get some control. People come in, but those first 24 to 36 hours were just the Wild West. Oh, yeah. We're finding abandoned vehicles and hot wiring them. One of our guys was a volunteer firefighter most of his life out of Fort Bragg. We found a fire truck, and he and his boys over in the Scouts, man, they got it up and running, and we were using that as non-lethal to try to control the crowds and stuff that were just flooding it until we got everybody in and we could take control. But again, like, here we are training for what we've been fighting, you know, for 20 years, right? And we're in another non-conventional setting. Yeah. And learning on the fly. And so, man, if I could put any theme, adaptability was everything I experienced in the military. Absolutely. And it translates to everything we do afterwards. But whether it be how you lead, how you fight, like you said, no plan ever lasted. We came up with a series of scenarios, and Department of State saying, here's the keys to the kingdom, and going up into the towers and finding 240s with 50,000 rounds. Yeah. And we're like, okay, we got a chance. Yeah. Like, we've got ammo now. We've got rounds.
How long were you over there?
I was there, I think, for like 17, 18 days.
Okay.
I left about a day and a half before everybody fully pulled out.
Talk about that experience getting back on the bird and taking off.
Wild. So one, you don't feel like you've done everything you could. I mean, we saved as many people as we could. You know, the guys who were manning the gate and the soldiers that were there dealing day in and day out, the women who were checking, inspecting people and putting their lives at risk, they did all the incredible work. I mean, at this point, I'm a staff guy, right? I got to go out and see some things and help out, and really those first 48, 72 were where I felt like I made my biggest impact. But we were there to support the people who were at the point of friction and manning these gates and checking and saving these lives. But, you know, getting on the bird, you left not feeling like you did enough. And I was flying back. So, you know, when I had time off, I went with the chaplain over, and there was an orphanage. And I remember one day I came off my shift. I was day, there was another guy who was night, and we would switch, you know, being the opsos. And the chaplain was like, hey, you know, Horoho, I'm going to go over with the orphans. Do you want to come over and spend some time with them? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I think that would be good for my soul right now. Because, you just saw crazy things. The scenes of where people are falling off of the airplane and holding on. And I remember there was a call that came in from one of the Charlie Company NCOs, and he goes, "Hey, we need fire extinguishers. Like, we have things on fire on the tarmac, and planes can't land." Well, we're watching it. We get him out there. Guys run it out, and we're watching it. And he's putting it out, and he goes, "Yeah, we also need a shovel. This is a body." It hit so hard when it came down, it combusted, falling off the plane. And we thought it was like a bush or something, or just like bags or something that. And he's just out there spraying people and putting them out, and it's just bodies. And where you're like sitting there, just, I mean, the level of desperation to hold on, not to mention the strength, but the desperation to get out of the situation you have and to hold on to the plane. And we're just sitting, and I'm watching it on a screen. It's, you know, feet away from me outside the wall, but I'm just watching it on a screen. And man, it's you got to witness things that if you don't come home and feel appreciative, even in a bad scenario, you can believe what you want about politics, you can believe what you want about other people, but if you don't come home with a humble respect for what we have in this country, and that there is no scenario I think any American here would hold on to a plane in order to get out of where we are in America.
No.
Yeah.
Not a single one I can think of.
Not anytime soon.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not great, right? But not
not
hold
bad.
on to a plane
Well,
taking off.
comparatively, and that's what I always tell people is that any government is going to have
Problems.
its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Any government that you're ever at. And if you're going to get behind a system,
Yeah.
the American system is a pretty damn good one to be behind.
Not a bad place to have a voice.
Especially if it's on the fundamentals of
Yeah.
what this country is really about, is like freedom.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest difference is, yes, you're going to have some problems, but you can't have an opinion
Yeah.
if you've never been outside of it.
Exactly.
And going into countries like that, it's just so eye-opening. That's why
Yep.
a lot of military service members, veterans, have an open mindset
You got to.
because they've been exposed to masses.
Your
amounts
eyes
of
were
cultures.
forced to be open.
Yeah, true oppression. You've seen it with your first
Yeah.
eyes, like
Where-
what it's like to live with crushed water bottles issues.
Exactly.
That's your
Absolutely.
What
And
it's
that's it.
like to stare
Melting
someone in
on
the
your
face
feet.
that would gladly toss a baby off a cliff.
Yeah. Or legitimately
How many people in this country have looked in the face of someone who can do that?
who'd like in your
And
eyes and just
they can't comprehend that, so they don't understand that level of evil. So they're like, yeah, peace and love for everybody. Yeah, it'll be great. I could talk some sense into this person.
yes.
No, you can't.
I can't show them the desperation of I want my child to live. And so, and this didn't happen to me. It was a story that was shared. But one of our medics at the terminal said a guy came in and with a machete in his hand. And his mindset was that if his child was injured, then he would get to go to the front of the line and then we would take him through and get him help and everything like that. And he tried to hack his child's arm off to get through. And our medics are sitting there. Our medics did incredible work dealing with the children, the family, the exhaustions. And we talked a little bit about Abbey Gate and the work that the medics and stuff did there. But in front of this medic, young kid, 19, 20 years old, and there's a 7-year-old with an arm hanging off because the dad didn't get through it. But that was in his head, his only option to get his family safe was to harm his child to get him care, and the kid passed away. Didn't achieve the goal he wanted, and now scars our medics and puts one more mark on their soul that they carry around for the rest of their lives. But you can't teach that to people. Yeah. You can't tell them the level of desperation these people felt like they were facing, where it was certain death if we didn't get them out of there.
Yeah.
And then you go into Abbey Gate, right? So the day that I was over at the orphanage, I was helping out kids. There was these 2 twins that lost their parents. And one of them was like a feral child. And I just sat there for like 4 hours wrapped around her, holding her because she was trying to run away and was going to get hurt, biting me, scratching me. And I was like, but at this moment, I was like, this is what I can do. I'm not at the gate, checking people and bringing them through and stuff like that. I can just help because the Swiss were there as well. And so they were running the orphanage and they were overwhelmed. And this girl kept running away, causing problems, punching people, hurting people. And so I was a big enough guy where I just held this little girl for like hours until she fell asleep and tired herself out. Never got to see her again. But we're driving back, and we were going to go drop water off. I was with the chaplain. We were going to drop water off to Abbey Gate. Again, right? Plans don't go as it was. Somebody got called back and said, hey, we got to go back to Camp Alvarado. Then we'll go. Not 6 minutes later did the bomb go off at Abbey Gate. And we're just watching it on the monitor, and everything stopped. Just hush, quiet comes across, and without hesitation, one of our medics who was working the radio. He's an ops guy now at this point, doing his rotation as development happens for young NCOs and stuff like that. And he get up and I got to go, and he went. And he went over there, and him and a bunch of our medics from across all the brigade went and started providing whatever care they could. I wasn't there. I didn't get to. I saw photos and stuff that were taken. I saw some stuff on the screen. But these guys came back, and they had the weight of the world on their shoulders, seeing those 13. I remember one of our NCOs who was a former naval guy before he came over to the Army. And he was just shook because of corpsmen. And he said, you don't go after the doc. You don't go after Doc. And was, it hit everybody watching those 13 lose their lives just senselessly, changed the scope of everything we were doing there for the rest of the time. And a lot of those medics, went over, they saw the bodies take the plane and gave them the honor that they deserved as they came home to their families. But the weight of that day sat on everybody. And I think, you look at some of the congressional hearings and stuff where people stood up and talked about, why things were wrong, what didn't go right, how we devolved to the point where Abbey Gate happened. I'm beyond proud. I know some of those guys who were there. One of them was a medic in the platoon next to me when I was on the line. Was probably the happiest, most go-lucky. I mean, just funny kid, awesome personality, wicked smart, and an incredible medic. But he's still on active duty when he decided to go up and speak about what happened. And that's a level of bravery that a lot of young kids don't have. And I thought he crushed it. I sent him a message saying, "Hey, man, never been more proud to know you. Thank you for giving a voice to what we saw there and what happened," because it wasn't handled correctly. No. Nobody's denying that. And the hard part is you're forever associated with something that is a historic blunder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And those thousands that didn't get out.
Thousands.
And that's what they see.
Yep. And that's what
what they'll remember.
Exactly.
And all the supplies and
everything that was
Russia
left behind.
all over again. The exit of Russia and just it's one of those moments where finally active duty service members are feeling like they're not a part of the good guys anymore.
Yep. And now you have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's where we saw a lot of people. I think a lot of retention issues started coming after that.
Yeah.
The COVID things, the way we evacuated HKIA.
Yeah. And including yourself.
Yeah.
You decided to get out.
This was it. I came home and I did a hard look at everything that had happened in my career. And I knew I didn't want to stay big Army. My goal had always been to go small Army. And I just decided that so many doors can shut, right? And maybe this isn't what I was supposed to do. Things haven't lined up. Young, made some dumb decisions, right? There's definitely some mistakes that I would go back and choose differently as any young leader would and stuff like that. But, now I'm at the point where I need to make a choice. And I felt like I had been put in multiple ethical, questionable scenarios that I wasn't prepared for as a leader.
Yeah.
You're always going to, right? But
sure. You face some big ones.
Yeah. Over a period of time. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? And so I decided, hey, it's time to step away. I want to start a family. I had been married and divorced, in my time when I was in service, and I knew that if I wanted to start a family, which is my biggest priority in life, is to get married, create a legacy, start a family. This wasn't how I was going to do it. Talk to my parents, because you feel a little bit like a failure. My mental health was like, man, I haven't succeeded. I didn't get my Ranger tab like a good infantryman. Didn't get my EIB like a good infantryman. Had minimal leadership time, on the line.
The honorable deployment.
Yeah. My deployment was 21 days, and I wasn't leading troops or.
Blunder.
But
yeah. I feel you.
At this point in my mind, I'm like, fuck, I'm a failure. I've got this legacy of my grandfather that I didn't live up to. I've got my family name that has big meaning across. And so now you're carrying the weight of, are you a success? And my parents always tell me, like, hey, you put more pressure on yourself than anybody else is putting on you. But that's who we are, right? That's why we choose to be who we are, because we put unrealistic expectations on ourselves to be the 1% that serves the country.
Yeah.
And so, you talk about mental health and stuff. Well, now you're going down a dark rabbit hole. Yeah. And, I go, do my paperwork. I'm starting to get out, wondering if I'm going to pin captain or not. Like, one more thing. Hey, I didn't even pin captain.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna leave as a first lieutenant, depending on when my date is. And that's like the last big gut check. And so, then something goes right. And I'm sitting there, and you have to go talk to the reserve recruiter. And she says, hey, can I just ask why you're not, like, what did you want to do if you stayed in? So I know my body's not going to hold up. Like, I just did a self check. I wasn't going to stand up to Special Forces selection. I saw the guys who went in. I got to do some cool stuff as a cadet, where I went to WinSec, I went to Robin Sage, and got to go through part of the Q course. And like, live my dream, and I knew that's what I wanted. But I did the assessment, and I was like, hey, if I was the soldier, I'm not the leader that soldier deserves right now. And mentally, I'm not there. Physically, I would have to get myself back. I'm not ready to go down that path. I said, but, civil affairs, PSYOPs, like I think, that would have been something I was looking at. And she goes, well, why don't you just do reserves? Like, well, they don't have, like, what do they have? Like, can I still jump? Like, I still wanted to go to jump master. I still wanted to get my star and stuff like that. Yeah. And so, cut to now I get to go to do small army. And so I make the decision to switch to being a part-time soldier. And I found, hey, my path is leading back. So now, they have a team chief slot. So now I'm with a bunch of awesome guys down in Miami once a month, with Aloha Company and the boys. And I'm Cap 4, Team Aloha 4. I've got soldiers. I'm back on the line. I'm doing the stuff that organically you want to do. But I stopped trying. I just let everything go. I said, hey, it's okay. I failed. I didn't hit all my marks. I still have things I want to do. Yeah. And here we are. Okay. And so as soon as you give up the control of the journey, it starts to, like you said, it starts to navigate where it was meant to be the entire time.
So it sounds to me like you kind of got into that role after some really hard times in the military, and at least you got that experience back again. So how did that service kind of close out for you, and then your transition out into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so, now I'm finding my passion back, right? I found Texas Valor Project, helping veterans to get brain health treatment that can't afford it or don't have access to it through the VA because they're backed up. They're overwhelmed by the sheer numbers and they need help, and that's what we're here for. Working with To Serve Together, my mom's nonprofit for women's veterans, to recognize them and get them the help with homelessness, with mental health issues and stuff like that. And then met the love of my life. I'm getting married in September. I'm building that family, but I'm home. And so, now I work with United Health Group. I took my operational background. I took everything I learned from the military, and I found a purpose to give back through charity and through building the family that all I wanted. And then, like we started out saying, the Rockwall, the Dallas area, I found a community. Without that community and without finding like-minded individuals who are going to pick you up like your soldiers and your friends would in the service, I don't think we would be where we are today. People who say, hey, man, you're acting a little erratic. Your mental health doesn't seem great. What's going on? And then you have an honest conversation. But I'll tell you that choosing to get back and give back is what's given me purpose and what's given me back on a life mission I think we can achieve.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic way to wrap this up. John, you've had an interesting career. It was not a long career, but you've had a lot happen in that short amount of time, and I think it's inspirational to see that you're continuing to serve even now, not in the way that you wanted to, but in a way that's right for you. Yeah, I really appreciate you opening up and sharing today.
Thanks
for going on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this has been the Medevac podcast, ladies and gentlemen. If you're in the Dallas, Fort Worth, Rockwall area, and you're a veteran, there's a fantastic veteran community here. You can get in touch with Texas Valor Project. You can talk to John, Aaron Withrow, who helps run that as well. They have a great veteran community here. So if you're looking for some new people, new challenges, new community, that's the right place to do it. Now that you've listened to the show, leave a review. Hit the button. Absolutely. It's going to take you 2 seconds by the time we wrap this up.
Hit the subscribe button, too, so you can get that annoying ping every time we have an episode that comes out.
See these beautiful faces. We will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening.
See you next time.